right, lads, what are you up to? And we go, oh, we're on leave. He goes, we go, what are you doing? He says, oh, we're in the tall ships race with the British Army. We've come from Kiel. And we're like, oh, fuck. He goes, what? I says, are you with the instructors from Kiel? Like, and he goes, yeah, all of the head shed are here. He goes, we're looking for these 4 lads who've nicked this yacht. We're singing pirate songs. We're like Life on the Ocean Waves and all this kind of thing. We had no charts. We couldn't sail. Yeah, we've been on the piss, on this course.
Turning every negative into a positive, not being a doom merchant.
These 2 guys, yeah, they didn't know they were being captured.
Nick, how are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm really good, Chris. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, firing, mate. I'm going to take my glasses off. I won't be able to see anything for about 5 minutes. Former SAS, been a friend of mine, folks, now for 4 years now, mate, haven't we? Quite a while.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's gone on a little while.
Welcome to the show. How's life with you?
Yeah, it's really good, Chris. Yeah, I'm just obviously I'm working on my business, Triad Adventure, and that's what I do myself now. We're just taking people away on getting them to do things they wouldn't ordinarily do by themselves. Getting them connected and getting them sort of pushing their comfort zones, if you like. And apart from doing recce's and planning trips and delivering trips, I'm just I'm living my best life, living the truth.
I think for veterans, you just got to try not to drink yourself to death in that middle bit,
When I sort of grew up, and the culture I sort of grew into was very much a heavily drinking culture. And I think that things have changed, which is a good thing, And I think with the kids now with phones and stuff, you can only imagine if some of the things that we got up to, if it's caught on a TikTok clip or whatever it was, you'd be horrified, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the kids, you got to be careful, haven't they, these days?
We see that a lot, and it hasn't changed. The type of bullying might have changed. It didn't change from when we were kids, or going back a few years. In this day and age, it has changed, and I do think, like all things, you just need to get the balance right in terms of, as you said, using the internet and stuff like that. But
for the benefit of our friends at home, which SAS unit did you serve with?
Yeah, so I was in 2-1, which is a reserve element of the Special Forces group. I'm really grateful to have had that experience. It came at you get these opportunities in life. You've got to listen to these good sort of impulses and sort of take these opportunities, because they don't come along that often. And you just take that opportunity and go for it, which is exactly what I did. And it came out of a particularly challenging time, previous to that, which we'll probably get onto. But, it doesn't define me, that, 2-1 and 2-3, they're known as tier 2 level special forces units. So, it's the same cap badge, but a different capability than the regular component. And that's worth making a clear distinction, really. I mean, really good blokes, don't get me wrong, some top blokes. And it's just a fantastic network of people. I mean, they've got day jobs. They're kind of, we had barristers, we had all sorts, right across the whole spectrum, and people going off skiing across the poles, to the poles. They're they're sort of rowing across the Atlantic, doing, getting to the top of Everest. And, it's just a fantastic network of people and quite a unique sort of organization to be involved in. The opportunities that you got, the training opportunities, the operational tempo when I joined really sort of kicked on, really, which is I got based in 2000, left in 2000 and 2008. So it was just a great experience all round. Demanding, but demanding in terms of family life and your career, and eventually that's kind of where I left. I mean, I was old in relative terms when I got in at 35, and I'd had a overseas deployment, and my wife was sort of 6 months pregnant, and these kind of impacts, going away and leaving young kids is tough, especially when actually you have got a choice.
Every military child we've had on the podcast all feel the need to introduce themselves as a military brat.
Yeah.
You see the level of indoctrination there into a poor child, that is their psyche, their mindset is, I'm an inferior person because of the experience that my parents put me through, which is sorry, I'm getting on one a bit, but
yeah. Well, Chris, that's a slightly different sort of demographic. When you're talking about a reservist, I've got a day job and then I'm disappearing. I'm going off. I think when blokes, particularly, we're quite selfish individuals. Until we get married, until we start a family, and then the sort of penny drops about your real responsibilities. What are your real responsibilities in life? And we all want to go for these things because of lots of different reasons, but we're wanting to push ourselves. That's we wanted to find our limits. That's been my defining thing, is about pushing either society in some ways, or my mental, my physical capabilities, and I know what my limits are. I've hit my physical limit, I've hit my mental limit, and now I've punched through to the other side of it. And in terms of your responsibility when you've got a young family, that penny eventually does drop. And thankfully, as somebody, I had the choice then that I could leave. And you do in the military, in the regular army. I've been a regular soldier, I know what that's like. And obviously the longer you get in, the more you're tied into a sort of pension and all that kind of caper. And I think that's, getting back to your point about military brats, as you call them, that's when you're getting bounced around the world, and every couple of years, you're going to a new school, new start, or you're going to boarding school if you're, in that sort of realm. And these impacts do have, they do have a consequence. And, for me, both my kids fairly young when I decided to leave. And the reason I left was because of that. It's because of that. I didn't want to, I realised how kind of selfish I was being. And the fact that I was always, wherever I was, I should have been somewhere else. I should have, when I was with the unit, I should have been at work, I should have been with family, and it just went round and round. And,
well, I can chip in here, Nick, because we've been discussing Everest, haven't we?
That's right, yeah.
As a possible goal for 2026. Next year we're rowing the Atlantic, right? Or me and three military buddies, we're going to row the Atlantic. But here's the thing: as a parent, I think you've still got to have a bit of your life. How much is your life, and how much are you actually thinking about your child? And you have to put some thought into those things, because like you say, I don't just think it's the nature of servicemen. I think it's probably the nature, certainly.
I'll jump in, Chris, because there's some really good example. It just happened literally a couple of days ago. So I had a call. Could I jump on a trip to part of East Southern Africa, for 3 weeks? And it was last minute. It was like, I mean, my kit's packed like yours. It's packed, ready to go. Do you know what I mean? Can I go? And this was Wednesday, which obviously today I'd be jumping on a plane now for disappear for 3 weeks. But my diary is fairly clear because I'd wanted to keep this sort of period of time free. So I could have gone, but we got a family diary, right? And it's a relatively new thing, but we just, because my kids are all back, back from uni now, or just finished A levels and stuff. It's we identify days where we're all free, right? We're all clear, and then we go off. We had a great day, and we had a day planned down to the beach yesterday. I had a fantastic day. I'm out paddleboarding, 2-3 miles offshore, and I mean, it doesn't sound a lot, but I gave up, I suppose. I would have given that up, for 3 weeks in Africa to do some work. And, part of me, reason I'm saying is part of the ego was going, yeah, fuck it, I'm off. I love Africa. Who doesn't? It's such a beautiful country. People are beautiful. I had some mega times in Africa on expeditions. And, the chance to go back there, get your feet in the soil, see the game and do that work. I'd said, I'm available. I could do it. And then I remembered this commitment, this family day, this beach day. I said, look, I can't go. I'm not going. That's it. And the fact is, you've got to listen to the right voice, right? Because there's something like getting back to your Everest thing, you get these ideas in your head. They're hardwired sort of ideas about, we have them about going to Everest, this dream as a young kid you might have had. And, it's just the sort of the romance, the challenge, the sort of top of the world, this kind of thing. And then you balance it out against this selfish, sort of egotistical type of perspective, which is why do you actually want to do that, and what's the consequence of your actions of doing that? Because time moves on, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? And the ideas you had back then might not be relevant now, but they're so hardwired in, and we see this every day. You see this in some of your sort of unconscious decisions, your sort of your automatic thinking, which has been hardwired from previous experience, and you just react in a certain way, but it's not actually coming from your sort of true authentic self, the moment that you're living in right now. Actually, do I want to risk, because you'll be risking your life to do that, or anybody does do that mountain is risking their life.
Well, that was the thing, that the rowing I'm not too bothered about, even though it's actually quite a long time away from your family. It's anything up to 60 days. In fact, some people take even longer, right? But like I say, you still got to live a bit. And the thing is, Nick, it's statistically very safe. I don't want to go and jinx. I don't want to jinx anything by putting numbers to it, but statistically, it's if you do it at the right time of year, it's you're going to be okay. Whereas my little lad went into school the other day, and they do a show and tell every week where one of the kids in the class gets up and I don't know why, but this kid decided to do his on Everest, and he said, yeah, and of course up there's all these dead bodies because most people don't make it back down. My son had a bit of a wobble in the car on, because obviously that's something you I don't even know if I would broach that subject before I went. I think the point is that you're aware of consequences, you're making conscious decisions, and and you're doing what you think is right for you. I don't know if it's right, Nick. I don't know how possible it is to think something like this through. Like I say, the rowing, I'm not bothered about. That's to me, it's more dangerous cycling on the road on a bicycle. In fact, to be honest, I think cycling on a British road, with all the lack of attention now and the atrocious driving, is probably way more dangerous than climbing Everest. Statistically, I suppose someone could disagree there, but that one, I'm gonna have to. I never would want to deprive my son of a father. On the other hand, I wouldn't intend to go up there and not come back down. I don't set out. I'm too old to fail things now, Nick. I've done well. We've done all that, haven't we? We've done all that in the past. So
I think you have. You must be a bit like me, and you think you can get yourself out of trouble as quick as you got into it, and you got this sort of survival instinct,
Yeah, I'm not going to go into something if my sixth sense, which in this case would be my stomach, is telling me something's not quite right. Because I've done that before with things, and they didn't turn out, they didn't turn out well, which is fine when you're younger because it's all part of the learning curve. But if they don't turn out well on Everest, it's game over, isn't it?
Yeah, but the point is, really, I suppose, is that 2026, we kind of talked about, okay, let's go on this Everest journey, and that's what adventure is. Adventure is the journey, isn't it? So there's a number of things that we're going to have to do prior to sort of setting foot on that mountain, which will be going to the Himalayas, doing a 6,000 meter, 7,000 meter, doing some other challenges, doing some other training. And, you're talking about from where you are now, that's a 3-year journey, right? So think of those experiences. You can still consider the fact, are we actually going to do it? But the point is, adventure starts, when things starts to go wrong. That's actually when adventure is. When everything goes to plan, it's not much of an adventure, is it? And you just go with it. Go with that sort of, listen to that good impulse. Listen to that sort of voice that's in you, and thought, let's go for this stuff. And
I remember when Middleton made his summit, and did a sort of little guerrilla expedition, didn't he? Or he did he had one, just employed a Sherpa basically to walk up there and then get him up the mountain, or get each other up the mountain, I should say. So that sounded a bit rude. And I was like, I like Andy. I think he's a nice guy. I was kind of full of respect that he achieved a dream that's just that is a dream for me. But he did say that he spent a bit too long on the summit. He got a bit sort of carried away with it all. And when he turned around to come back down, he was at the back of the queue. Yeah. And it really was like logjam. He was, obviously you're running out of air at that point, and you're getting closer to hypothermic. And of course he had I think 3 or 4 kids by this stage. It's sorry.
Yeah, he was definitely starting to go down. I do remember that. And I think he probably had a bit of a wobble with himself. And these things come along, they happen to us, and we keep ourselves in check a bit, because we're like, certainly happened to me on a number of different occasions when, you've pushed things or you've done things and you thought, actually, I was very close to death then. And it's, it's happened a few times on adventures. I can remember that.
Mate, I want to get up there. None of this like sitting around for 40 minutes, taking in the sightseeing. I want to go, right, done it. Come on, let's get back down. Is that bad?
Oh, that's it. That's it.
So let's go back to the SAS then. I guess the difference between 2-1 SAS and 2-2 is that 2-2 have mastered the art of the double punch, whereas 2-1 are still doing all the Bruce Lee shit, right? Am I in the
You could certainly frame it in that way, Chris. Yeah.
so basically I could join, couldn't I, with the knowledge that I have now?
I think you're a bit of a ninja, aren't you?
I'm a ninja at getting out of stuff, mate. Anything I don't want to do. Why do you think I've got a podcast? I don't want to work for a living. Yes, but did you I'm always trying to like stitch the journey together for people, because you hear all about this PTSD and the public have been conned into thinking it's like you only get it in battle. You got to, you know, I get civilians apologize to me because they didn't get their trauma like in conflict like I did. And I'm like, I didn't get mine in conflict. I like most veterans I know, we were extremely damaged as kids. And we then, you know, carried that into the forces. Was that a similar story with you, Nick? Did you have a challenging childhood?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And just your point about PTSD and stuff, and you know, I think you keep it simple. You know, you could take half of it away, just call it traumatic stress, and that's it. You know, it's not the military or the rescue services don't own it. It's you know, it is just traumatic stress, and you know, there's combat related, there's complex. And essentially, it presents in a similar fashion in terms of, you know, severe anxiety, depression, and recurring kind of thoughts and triggers and stuff like that. And yeah, getting back to childhood, I'd agree. I mean, you know, you think of most blokes that go into, certainly into the infantry. I mean, I joined the engineers, you know, and you know, but most blokes from the interim are you know, council estate kids and all that goes with that kind of upbringing. I mean, for me, you know, I lived in a good town. I lived in Guildford, born in Guildford, lovely family. And as you know, Guildford's not too far from Aldershot, which was the home of the British Army at the time. And I was fascinated by the military. My granddad was in, you know, First World War. The uncle was a pilot, and you know, that's where I grew up. Great family, you know, proud heritage, North London, and you know, but things didn't kind of go smoothly, put it like that. I mean, you know, I grew up in the 70s, and probably like you, we're sort of always out. You know, we were always out, weren't we? Always up, you know, playing around the streets and stuff like that. There was no telly, there was none of this kind of stuff really for us, was there? So we just made our own fun. And I think at weekends, you know, you could stay out even later. And you know, I just remember one obviously particular night we were out playing as kids, and you know, we heard this explosion go off, and it was, you know, sort of, I think October 74, and it was a cold, sort of dark, sort of Saturday evening. And we'd heard this kind of explosion, but you know what an explosion is, even as a 10-year-old, you know. And where we lived on this hill just above the town centre, and ran towards this noise because, you know, we're kids, we're thinking, right, we're going to be heroes, we're going to be the first ones there, we can save, you know, because that's all we used to watch and idolize these magazines and these comic books and stuff. And we ran towards this explosion, and a few minutes later we're getting a lot closer to it, and now, I don't know, a couple hundred meters away, another explosion goes off, and there's just this kind of silence you get after an explosion. You know, all the dust has settled and all the rest of it, and I just remember, you know, all these screams. It's all these women screaming because you know, the IRA bombed you know, Guildford's 2 pubs, and my best mate, you know, his brother was out in town that night, and he used to drink in the Seven Stars and the Horse and Groom, and so, you know, I don't know how much that really affected me. You know, I thought about it later in life. At the time, it doesn't really, you know, people are starting making a fuss about you. I'll get, you know, you know, get back indoors. See my dad, he was like, get indoors and stuff. And, you know, it's certainly a significant event, you know. How much it affected me at the time, I don't know.
Did you see people who'd been blown up, or was it just the?
No, we got to sort of an alleyway just the other side of the pub, sort of thing. And this time there was a copper there, and he said, "Look, you know, get away from here. There's body parts down this alleyway." But I think it's more the you know, hearing them sort of screams really was not pleasant, you know. But these things, they kind of, everything sort of registers, doesn't it? And like I say, I didn't dwell too much of it. I don't think as a sort of 10-year-old, you just sort of shrug it off. You've got no measure, have you? And but I do remember, you know, everybody around me, my mum and dad, was certainly my mum being really, really upset about it. And you know, it was quite a significant thing for the town, really, as you can imagine. But following on from that, you know, within a short space of time, within you know, 2-3 years, I'd lost, you know, every sort of male role model in my family. Like, so my granddad, then my dad, and my uncle all passed away fairly suddenly. And I'd say that was, you know, losing my dad really as a 12-year-old was probably the most significant thing as a young person.
Can't imagine it. Can't imagine it. Just going back to the bombings thing, I just think this has to be said, especially in light of the last 20 years. But you know, you had the bombings in Guildford and also Birmingham, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
But they had to frame innocent people to take the rap. You know, the Guildford 4, Christ knows how long they spent. You know, 4 innocent people. I think they've been over here on the ferry on a you know, a sightseeing sort of trip. I don't know. I might be getting me incidents messed up. And then was it the Birmingham 7? These people did a lot of jail time.
Yeah.
I'm only mentioning it now, Nick, because I don't believe a single thing on the news, and they're saying now more and more that it was like, you know, MI6 or something that controlled that whole conflict, controlled the IRA.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you Liverpool lads have got an Irish accent, and that's it. You know, we got, you know, they want to kind of put somebody in the frame for it, don't they? And that's you know, that's how it is. And yeah, I was always amazed that we had contact, you know, with the IRA. It's sort of like they had a hotline. What's all that about? Hold on, if you can talk to these people, why aren't you talking to them? You know, why aren't you kind of resolving it? Well, you know, I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, it just seemed all rather bizarre. But you know, that's all in the past, mate. Hopefully, or thankfully.
Is the selection then? So the very famous selection training, is that reserves as it is for the regulars?
Well, the hills phase is kind of mirrors it. It certainly does now. When I did it, it was essentially, you know, you go at a slightly slower pace, if you like. It was, I don't know, 3.5 k's an hour. Regulars had to do 4k an hour, or it's 3 k's an hour. It kind of moved around really, but you know, you're doing a build-up training over a period of about 6 months, but over weekends and over long weekends. So you don't know the ground as well, and you've got to obviously maintain your fitness for a longer period of time and train yourself. And then essentially, if you know, when you do the 2-1 element, if you meet the markers and you go down the test week and you join the regular component, or people trying to get into the regular component, and you know, you're down at Senny Bridge and you're getting on the trucks at sort of 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and driving out to the beacons, and somebody gives you a grid reference and off you go, and yeah, I mean, Hill's Face, we all tend to look back on with, I say fondness, but it's a great period of time, because you're at peak fitness, you're with good people, and you start off with lots and lots of people, and then you end up and there's a handful of you, and over that time you forge some really good, strong relationships. You try and have a crack as best you can, and it's a great thing. It's a great opportunity.
And the resistance to interrogation is that's a bit of a
you do that. I mean, that's not pleasant, It's funny, we were in some sort of farmhouse up in north of the country, and cold stone floor, and obviously you're going to get bumped. You do some camp attack, and you're going to get bumped afterwards, and captured, and stuck into a helicopter or into a back of a wagon somewhere, and taken, all the stuff that you can imagine. And then the brief we used to get wasn't that good, actually. Back then it wasn't that good. It was sort of sticking to the big four, and it's been well documented, but I just had it in my head for some reason. I got into this first one, and it was like they sort of stripped you down, you're sort of naked. And I do remember in the brief them saying, don't choke them, don't comply with them too much, because you're sort of, for whatever reason it was, and because like at this stage you're like massively fatigued. Do you know what I mean? You've been on the go, and you're not really eating, you're not really sleeping, and then you're sort of under that shock of capture, and then you get into this situation, and you get stripped down and all the rest of it, and then it's like, I put on these sets of clothes, and I'm thinking, I just froze for some reason. I was like thinking, yeah, I'm not meant to. I'm trying to remember the brief. I'm not meant to sort of comply. Anyway, I didn't react, and this guy just got hold of me, slung me up against the wall by the throat, pushed me up against the wall, and it's like, just you fucking, launch into me, bouncing me off every corner in this room, and just slung me out. So I was like naked, and so I'm in these sort of stress positions, but either sat cross-legged on the floor, hands behind the head, sort of, it's crippling, sort of, you're there for hours and hours. And obviously you're around in some room in a sort of fairly big circle. And it's like, I'm just sitting there trying to keep myself together. And I can hear people getting dragged off, right? So you get somebody else gets dragged off for interrogation, and you're like, I was thinking, he's got fucking boots on, and I'm sat on the cold sort of flagstone floor naked, right? I've been there for hours. I'm absolutely gibbering, going down, and I can hear all these people getting dragged off one at a time, and then I thought, okay, there's another pair of boots. He's got boots on. I thought, fuck, they're all fucking dressed, I'm sitting naked, and in the end, they're like, fucking put some clothes on where it's like, and luckily I got that opportunity, got sort of put my kit on. But I was, I remember the DS afterwards, like fucking slapping me on the back, going, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? But it's all fun and games, mate.
Wow. Yeah, my mate Nige was in 2-2, and he said, he was telling me about that phase and all the, the baby noises and the white noise and the stress positions. And he said at one point he needed a piss. I mean, I don't know how he managed. I don't know how long you're in there for. I don't know how long he'd had to wait for. I would imagine a lot of people. I would have thought you just pissed yourself, but he puts his finger up to the DS, And the deer says, yeah, what? He says, I need a piss. And he said that the DS just grabbed him, dragged him out, and he thought, oh my God, this is, I've screwed up here. And got him outside, ripped his, was it Hessian sack over your head or balaclava or, something. He just ripped off his headgear and says, congratulations, you've passed. So at the moment, Nige said when they're dragging him out, he thought, I failed. Why did I ask to go to the toilet?
This is what's going in your head all the time. You're thinking, oh, I fucked up now. I've sat there thinking you fucked up. That's you. You're going to get seen off, and then like when you're at that bit, you're still thinking, oh, he's I'm getting thinned out, and you still think, for a little while afterwards, you still think it's going on.
I think the Royal Marines MLs, the mountain leaders, do their own version of this phase. I might be wrong there, folks. It was a long time ago, but what I do remember is I was on guard duty down at Stonehouse one night, and I was 2IC of the guard because I was Lance Corporal, and I can't remember who was the guard commander. I can almost picture him in my head because the MLs course came in, and a chap called Tony, who a lot of people will know the Tony I'm on about. He had a brother in the Corps who I served in Belfast with. Tony came in the guard room and he said to the guard commander, he said, right, don't put anything out over the tannoy. These guys, they're blindfolded. They don't know where they are. We want to keep it that way. So they was obviously in that, that phase where they'd just been captured or whatever. And I don't know where they put these blokes, but obviously they must have kept their blindfolds on. And the guard commander forgot, didn't he? The next thing, I can't remember what he put over the tannoy, but Tahira, will so-and-so report to the guard. And at that point, all the guys on this course know that they're in Stonehouse Barracks. Yeah, and the next thing, the door flies open and Tony comes in all red-faced. I thought I told you. So, Nick, tell us the thing of borrowing the yacht.
So essentially, I sort of joined the army in the mid-80s in the regular army. And that all came about because I'd seen an expedition advertised, Operation Rally, and I applied for it. I got an application form, I should say, and went to fill it out. And this around the world expedition, all I got was my name and address. I had nothing, nothing as a sort of kid, so going, backtracking to what I'd said earlier, my behaviour sort of changed fairly dramatically as a sort of 14-year-old after those events and for other events I won't go into. And there was no kind of there was no support or anything at school. Nobody, you're just told that you're not going to amount to much and all the rest of it. And I just played out that reality. But essentially, I'd seen this expedition advertised, and I filled out application form. I had nothing I could put on there. And I was working on a building site. A guy had just come out, the engineers. He's showing me these photos of Kenya and Belize and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, if you want to get on the expedition, join the army. And so I figured, I knew that John Bashford now was a colonel in the army, and he's actually leading the expedition. So I joined the engineers. Very fortunate to get in, I guess, with what I had to offer. Not a great deal at that time, and I was fortunate to get on that expedition. It's a bit of a long answer to your question, but I came back from that expedition, which was in Northern Territories in Australia, which is an absolute amazing opportunity. We're in Aboriginal lands. We're the only people. There's 12 of us in there, and we were looking for ancient Aboriginal rock art, 14,000 years old. And it was just, amazing period of time, living with your feet in the dirt, one pair of shorts, eating by, making a fire every night, sleeping out, just in a kind of real natural state, in terms of what was around us. And that sort of expedition, what happened was I was the first one in the British Army to get on that expedition as a participant. And as a result of that, I got presented to the Queen and blah, 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 a few other things. But then you end up coming back to the unit, right? So you come back, I'm back in Germany. So I've been in charge of a bridge site, building a bridge in Australia. Is another project I did. And all the other project leaders, they're all officers in the army. Right? I'm just a bod, a sapper and the engineers. And I got back to my unit and it was like, fuck, I'm in Germany. I didn't want to be there. There was no real role for us, to be honest. There's a massive drinking culture, and it just went hand in hand in the military. Certainly around that time, it was just carnage. Every weekend, people didn't want to leave the camp. They just want to drink themselves into a stupor, and then all the the fighting and carnage that came out of that. But I had my eyes opened, in terms of this other world that was out there, these opportunities. And I don't think I had the self-discipline at that point to actually kick on from that experience in Australia. And what happened was, this is now 1988, and our friends the IRA are bombing all the camps in Germany, right? So we just get stuck on guard all summer. But we've been put in for a 1 week competent crew yachting sailing course right up in Kiel. So we go and do this. We get taken out this 6-month guard duty, and we're off a week up in Kiel, and we do this sailing course. And while we're on this course, I had three good mates on this course, and we're sailing the Army's latest sort of racing yacht. And every night we're going to a new port. We're getting up to all sorts, as you can imagine, and having the time of our lives. It was just fantastic. And we kept saying on the way back to Germany, because we sailed back across the Baltic, we're saying, we could just keep going. We had this thing, we could just keep going. We could go to the Med. We could, we don't have to go back to the army. It's, what's going on there? It was dull. There was no prospects. There's no action, no adventure. And anyway, we got back to Kiel, and we kind of went out on the lash night to do. And there was there was some sort of energy going around. There was some, we had a really good night in Kiel. And, we sort of made our way we were making our way back to camp in the early hours of the morning. And we just sort of seemed to pick up the pace. We were not sort of bimbling back with a kebab and stumbling around drunk. It was like we'd been drinking all night, but no one was getting drunk. We had this kind of subconscious kind of drive in us that something, I don't know, no one said, oh, let's go back and nick a yacht. It was sort of, but it was a lovely full moon, and we were sort of walking back, striding back to camp, sort of in good spirits. And next thing you know, we're breaking into the cookhouse. We're getting 10-man packs. The yacht's still full of beer from like previous nights and stuff like that. So we're getting this thing, and we started singing pirate songs, like and all the rest of it. And I'm thinking I'm going along with it and all the rest of it. I'm the oldest. I'm one of the oldest there. We get down to the jetty, and the idea was we would sleep one night on the yacht, and then we'd go back to camp the next day, right? So the lads are like, right, let's go, we're off, you know. And they start undoing the mooring, right? And I'm sat, you know, on the jetty, right? It's you know, it's really lovely warm night. It's got a t-shirt on, I can see all the stars, the moon's out. I just remember looking at this sort of, you know, this yacht and these lads, and they're going, right, Nick, come on, let's go. And I was at the, you know, the bow of the yacht on with the last, you know, the last cleat sort of thing. And I just looked at him, I said, lads, are you sure about this? Because you know, like when you drink so much and then you kind of sober up a bit. And I was like, are you really sure about this? And they're like, Nick, you know, you're with us or you're against us, you know, come on. And they start singing all this. And I just thought, fuck it, you know, let's go. And I just took one loop off this cleat, chucked the sheet onto the boat, onto the yacht, jumped aboard. And we just drifted out into this main shipping channel off of Kiel. And it's mental. I mean, it was like, you know, we got out a little bit and we cracked open the beers and, you know, started making cheese. You know, we used to remember that cheese possessed, you know, cheese in a can you used to get. Some makes cheese sandwiches. We got the motor going and we're just heading out. We're heading out to sea, and it's like we're singing pirate songs. We're like life on the ocean waves and all this kind of thing. And we're still having a party. That's what we're doing. We're on this yacht having a party, and then there's this noise below decks, right? And this fucking full screw, like unbeknown to us, he'd driven up from our unit to drive from the MT to drive us back to camp, right? And he goes, what? He came up from below deck sort of thing, and he's like, what the fuck are you lot doing? And we're like, no one's saying anything. He goes, you're in the fucking shit now. You don't know how much trouble you're in. Turn this fucking boat around and get back to shore. You know, you're going to jail and all the rest of it. And we're like, no, mate, you're the one that's in the shit. You know, this is our boat. We're going. We're off.
And sorry, how far did you get, Nick? I mean, Copenhagen.
Yeah.
From Germany.
That's it. Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the map.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a map here. It doesn't look much across the Baltic, but
it's quite a way if it's not your boat, isn't it?
Well, listen, for a start, none of us could sail. You know, we had no charts. I think I did have a road map, BOR road map. We had no charts. We couldn't sail. Yeah, we've been on the piss, you know, on this course. Competent crewman is just, can you pull in the foresail? Can you put up the mainsail? It's not like, can you navigate out of a main shipping channel? Can you sort of navigate yourself through the dark, you know, through the night?
When you got to Denmark, what did you do? Just abandon it, or did you get caught?
So this full screw, which is a corporal, for those who don't know it, we and him and another guy, we've said, like, you know, you're either coming with us or we're going to make you walk the plank, right? So we're 3 miles offshore in the main shipping channel, and this guy starts sort of stuttering and blubbering, and we're like, right, pulled the life raft, inflated this life raft, you know, but we inflate it in the sort of, not in below deck, but in the cockpit. So all like pull this button, you know, all this, we're pushed up against the side of the yacht. I mean, it's laughable. Anyway, we eventually chuck this thing over. There's a bit of a struggle. We chuck this thing over the side, get the 2 lads, put them in this life raft, and we just cut them adrift. I mean, you know, I'm not sort of proud of that.
What happened to all you're either with us or against us?
No, sorry, Chris, let me explain. Just let me explain. These 2 guys, yeah, they didn't know they were being captured. They'd come up to drive us back to camp, right? So they're innocent. They're from the MT section. They're not the 4 guys, me and the other 3 guys that have nicked the yacht. They were asleep below decks. They've got no idea what's happening. So literally made them walk the plank, put them in this life raft. I mean, we saw a lighthouse, and we sort of in the middle of this shipping channel, we sort of headed towards it as close as we could, and then just cut the rope, mate, and they drifted off. And I just remember seeing them, because they span in our wake a bit. They were doing this 360, and these two sort of, pale faces.
What? Just so we know, were they protesting that you put them in the life raft, or did they want to get in and have nothing more to do?
They wanted to get in, yeah, because they thought we were going to kill them, on this yacht. I mean, we were pissed we didn't have to sail the thing. They thought they were going to sort of drown at sea. We're going off into the middle of the Baltic, I mean, there's nothing in front of us, so we can still see the lights of the shore 3 miles, 3 miles away. But we're in a main shipping channel. But anyway, we cut them adrift. We could hear, and the other thing is the Mayday alerts were going off. So it was all we could hear all night was Mayday, 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 all shipping, be on the lookout for the British yacht Cormorant. So we could hear all this. Turn that thing off.
Is that because someone had realised it had been stolen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we peeled the letters off. I remember leaning over the back of the ship and the yacht, and peeled the letters off. So it read moron, right? So I've taken off the CDO and the ANT. So it said moron, and we put up a German flag. So we're now the German yacht moron, right? And anyway, we just drift off through the night, and I passed out. Everyone's like passing out left, right, and centre. I kind of woke up in the morning, and if you've ever been on a boat in a harbour, when a boat goes past you, you're generally pretty calm, and then you ripple, don't you? And I woke up, and I was like rocking. The boat was rocking, and I was thinking, fuck, that was a mad dream I've just had, And I was thinking, oh, that's a big boat that's going past us, because we're still rocking, 5 minutes later. And I'm thinking, that's not right. And this is in the morning. I wake up and I go up on deck, and there's my mate there and Geordie. They're sort of just slumped in with a tiller, right? And it's just fog. Everywhere is just fog. I couldn't see any land, nothing. And I'm like, it wasn't a dream. We actually done it. We're in the middle of the Baltic, and I woke, my mate up, and I said, Chief, where are you? Where are we? He goes, I don't know, Nick. I fell asleep. I said, well, what bearing have we been on? He goes, I don't know. And I thought, fuck, we're in the shit, And I was like, well, we got no charts. Our other mate was still asleep, and this realization just dawns on you. You're thinking about these two lads, right? You phone overboard. You're like, oh, you're hangover from hell and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I got this roadmap out, right? And this BAR roadmap, and I'm going through it. There's got to be a bit on Denmark, and yeah, lo and behold, a bit of Kiel was in the one of the last sections of the map. Was Kiel, blue strip of ocean, and I'm like, well, we've come out of Kiel. If we go north, if we go on, northerly bearing, we must, unless we've gone too far east into East Germany. If we stick north, we're going to hit land. We've got to hit land somewhere. So that's what we did. So we went north, got a northerly bearing, and we've been on the motor all night. So we're in on this diesel engine all night. We've got no life raft, and we don't know how to sail. But when we set this, you can know how to set a compass. We set the sort of bearing to north, and we just chugged off into the soup, into this pea soup. And you can imagine it's quite a long day through the fog, through the mist. Eventually clears sort of mid-afternoon. And then we get into a storm. A bit of a squall blows up, and we're thinking, oh, by this point we managed to put a sail up, because we thought we can run out of diesel. And we put this sail up, and we're still on northerly bearing, and late afternoon we see land. We're like, land ahoy! You can imagine. I thought, oh my god, it's like a lifeline. And so we just handrailed this coastline. We're still about 3 miles offshore, 2-3 miles offshore. We just handrailed this coastline. And I'm looking through this map thinking, oh, is there any harbours or anything? And I thought, we can't go another night. Do you know what I mean? Because we're going to run out of diesel. We had to take the sail down because it got really, really windy. Like it's quite a storm blowing, and rough seas. And at one point, I go to take the main sail down. It got stuck on something, and we got heeled over. And I'm dangling over the edge. My feet are in the water. We got no life jackets on, nothing like that. It's getting to be a sticky situation. We're getting, deeper and deeper into it, and eventually we're saying, well, what's the options? What have we got? Well, we ain't got no life raft. We can't swim ashore. We're going to have to run aground. If we don't see anything, we're just going to have to run this thing into the rocks. And that, obviously that didn't sit right. And then late afternoon, we just saw like a ferry in the distance going into a harbour. So we thought, follow that ferry, and we saw this harbour before the main ferry port, and we decided to put on sailing suits because we thought, the authorities are looking for us. We still calling out maydays, and taking the sails down, got the engine started up, and we sort of just punted into this ferry, and right in front of us there was Danish police on the ferry, and we thought, that's it, they've come for us. But sort of just bluff your case a bit, started scrubbing the decks down and would wave to them and stuff like this. And my mate Craig, we managed to, because we came in too fast, wind behind us. We were like, I don't know, doing about, 7-8 knots into, you need to take the gas off. So we just managed to swing around it, drop everything, and just managed to moor it up. And first thing we did, start cleaning the decks down. The police guy came alongside us to a crawl. He just sort of looked across at us like this, and we sort of looked at him, and he just carried on going. He saw the name on the boat, Moor on. He saw the German flag. He's looking for a British yacht, cormorant, And we got away with it. Packed some kit up in a sail bag, some DOS bags. I just wrote a note downstairs, gone fishing, left a little note, and we just walked off from the harbour. We come across this pub, and we just sat down, and we just had a beer, and we were like, fucking hell.
So you're in the pub having a recovery beer.
Yeah, I mean, it was still in the morning. I think it must have been, I can't remember what time it was, but anyway, we have this drink. This barmaid brings over four large pints. We haven't got much money. That's the other thing. So we got no money. I did have a credit card, nothing on it. Puts down this bottle opener, pours our 4 beers. It's like that ice cold in Alex, thing. And we're looking at the beer, this sort of trip down the edge of it, and just knock these beers back, and it's like, fucking hell. And that sort of anxiety then started to sort of form in your stomach, when you're in the shit and you got to face it, right? But I mean, for me, that was a familiar thing. I'd sort of, from my childhood experiences, I'd carried that with me. That kind of that knot of anxiety was a kind of familiar feeling for me. But it was obviously exemplified. And we just thought, the fuck, we're going to get out of this, and we're in Denmark. We've made the crossing. Thankfully, we haven't caused any damage to the yacht. We have these beers, and we thought, let's just make our way, jump on the train and get to Copenhagen. We thought we'll have one night on the piss, and then we'll think about it, because everything gets resolved after the night on the piss, doesn't it? So we jump on the train. you know, like I say, we haven't got any currency, we haven't got any cash as it is. We've got a few Deutschmarks, I think, and getting to Copenhagen, right? So go into this main station, Central Station. It's a bit like Waterloo, any big, massive station, right? Loads and loads of people bombing around. We go and have a shower, and we got this sail bag. And it has got the, you know, what we took from the yacht. It's got our DOS bags in, and we thought, well, we'll leave this in left luggage. And we're in the middle of this sort of concourse. You know, there's loads and loads of people walking around. And we're just stuffing this this bag into the left luggage. And two of my mates, buddies who was in training with, sort of walk up to us, and he goes, "Right, lads, what are you up to?" And we go, "Oh, we're on leave." He goes, we go, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, we're in the tall ships race with the British Army. We've come from Kiel." And we're like, "Oh, fuck." He goes, "What?" I says, "Are you with the instructors from Kiel?" Like, and he goes, "Yeah, all of the head shed are here." He goes, "We're looking for these 4 lads who've nicked this yacht." I said, "What?" He said, "Did you hear about these 4 blokes who've nicked this yacht?" And I said, "What about the 2 lads that got chucked overseas?" He goes, "They're all right." He goes, "How do you know about them?" And I was like, "Fuck it," you know. I goes, "Oh, well, oh yeah, somebody told us about it," type thing. So we bluffed that off, and they left. I thought, "Oh, we've got to get out of this station," because the head shed from Kiel, we're in that station, and we just literally got the key in the lock, turning this thing, and it's sort of like a parting of the crowd, and like 100 meters away, we just locked eyes with this warrant officer who was in charge of the British Army Sailing Centre. And he just pinged us. Do you know what I mean? It was just a pure sort of fluke. And you know, we weren't going to run off. It's like we couldn't really get away, as it were. He just come up to us, and he same thing, goes, "All right, lads, what are you up to?" We go, give him the same thing. He goes, "Oh, you know, we're on leave." And then his oppo said, "Oh, I recognise you from Kiel. Sure, you're not from Kiel?" And so there we are, right? So we've achieved the objective. We're in Copenhagen. We've had a drink. We've sort of met the objective. We've got no money. This W01 is actually in the MP, so he's in the military police, but he's actually on detachment where he's looking after this sailing centre. And so now we're faced with this choice. So you've always got a choice, and this is one of the key sort of elements of that I've learned about, that, you know, you always have a choice, right? And our choice at that time was, we either knock these 2 guys out and go on the run, or we look at the other option, you know. And I said, "Hold on a minute." And I said, "Look, we'll have a little chin wag." And he says, "Look, listen, lads." He goes, if you're the guys, if it's you, I'll say that you handed yourselves in to me. And that is a massive lifeline. You know, that's not being caught, that's handing yourself in. So we went, "Fair enough, it's us," you know. And he was like, "Thank fuck for that." He goes, "Well done, lads." He goes, "You made a really good choice." And it really stayed with me, that. And he goes, first thing he said to us after that, he goes, "Where is she?" We're like, "Where's who?" He goes, "Where's the cormorant?" So we said, "Oh, it's in Rugby Harbour," you know. And he goes, "Right." And he sent his oppo, and he goes, "Right, go make a phone call." I said, "Oh, just so you know, it's now called the Moron, right?" Anyway, so off he goes. The W01, right? He goes, "Listen, Ed," he goes, "you made a really good choice. Come with me now. But I'll stick to my word. I'll say you hand yourself in." And he went, found the local old bill on the station. They locked us up on the station. And he was going off to this tall ships race, and he said, "Well done, lads." He goes, "All right, I'll see you again, no doubt." Anyway, he left, and we literally had, you know, that hour before we got picked up again to sort our story out. And this is the key thing, is that we just said, "Look, you know what it's like when you go on the piss, you forget all sorts of detail, don't you?" So we said, Nobody remembers anything. All we remember is waking up in the morning and then trying to get to land and then trying to hand ourselves in at the earliest opportunity. That's the story. Because nobody wanted to incriminate anyone. Nobody knew whose idea it was anyway, but you could say, oh yeah, Nick did this, or, you know, Joy did that, or Craig, you know, whatever. So just say you don't remember anything, and that was our story. Simple, keep it simple, right? So we get picked up by the old Bill, and they take us in this sort of meat wagon through Copenhagen. We're going through, you know, downtown. We see all the lights, all the action, just looking out the back window with the bars on. And we get put in a prison in Denmark, and then basically we got, I don't know how many nights we're in there, but then the British come up, the military come up, and we got taken to the SIB, which is the Special Investigation Branch, and we got took straight to them, right? And it was literally interrogation, you know, before I had the interrogation. So it's interrogation, you know, all day and separated, you know, I think they thought I was a ringleader because I was one of the oldest there, and I'd already been in some, you know, minor sort of scuffles and capers and stuff, and been in a bit of a, I don't know. I guess they just thought it was me. I was a ringleader, and that's what they want to do. Like too early thing, they want to put somebody in the frame. It doesn't matter if he is or he ain't. Let's get somebody. Let's not ruin 4 careers. Let's just lock somebody up. And you know, straight out the Sweeney, you know, in he comes in a cup of tea, you know, glass of water, sort of plastic cup sort of thing. And it's like, I was the last one to get interrogated. So I've been stood up like, I don't know, 8-10 hours or something. Get into this room. He goes, right, Nick, how you doing? Come in, sit down, you know. He says, do you want a cup of tea, mate? This is the oppo, right? Do you want a cup of tea? I goes, yeah, love one. He goes, right, tell us about this story then. So I'm drinking the tea like this. I thought, I've got to drink this tea. I was out hanging out. Have this tea first before I tell him, because I knew what the other lads would have said, you know. And I said, look, well, where do you want to know from? You know, and he goes, you know, tell us from. I said, you know, when you're in Kiel, I said, well, we went out on the piss. Yeah, we know all that. The lads would tell us how you went out on the piss. Tell us when you got back to the sailing club. I said, well, look, you know, the first thing I can really remember is waking up in the morning. And he goes, fuck you, lying bastard. He went, poof, the drinks are off the table. His mate's got me up against the wall. It's like a replay of the other thing that I had in years to come. Up against the wall, goes, you lying shit. He goes, gee, you're getting fucking 10 years for this. They wanted to give us 10 years. We were going to be the first British soldiers to be charged with piracy for 200 years. That's what we were getting charged with. I mean, it was like piracy, endangering life, danger to international shipping, drunken charge of a vessel, crossing borders. I mean, the charge sheet was 2 sheets of A4, right? That they were scheming up. He goes, you're getting 10 years for this. You know, you don't know how much shit you're in. And I'm like, he goes, so you better fucking wise up, because all your mates have already told us it's you, right? So just tell the story, and, you know, it's gonna look better on you. You're gonna get an easier sentence or whatever. If we can, you know, we get you 2 years or something. I was, you know, I don't know, something. He goes, so off we go. And so I said, come and have a cup of tea. He goes, fuck off, you know, just tell us. Anyway, so I'm like, I woke up on the yacht, and he up against the wall again, you know, all this thing. Oh, we didn't budge from the story. That's it. And he didn't get anything. That's all they got from us. Got back to camp eventually, and then you go through. You get another bollocking.
I'm not saying what happened to those 2 guys wasn't terrifying, but also the realization that it's the endangering life is the thing, isn't it? The nicking a boat, I don't think is the worst thing in the, you know, we wouldn't recommend it, but it's the fact that you put 2 people in a life raft and they might never have been seen again, mightn't they?
Well, I mean, they were close to a, you know, they were close as we could get to a lighthouse. And
yeah, I'm just thinking for the prison sentence thing, that's, I'm guessing that's what it would hinge on. So, so did you get then hit by the military, or did it go civvy first?
Yeah. So to try and wrap up a sort of quite a long story. Yeah, it went on. It went on and on and on, basically. So they couldn't figure it out. So there's a lot of negotiations, and we were on like close arrest for months and months, which meant, you know, you confined to camp, you paraded 3 times a day in number 2s, like best kit. You weren't allowed on any bars on camp. All you could do was go to work and then go back to the block, and then you'd be at the guardhouse parading. And now they went against Queen's regs doing that, and we had a sense that they were kind of doing that because they didn't know. They thought they were just going to wash their hands of us, and you know, and that'd be the end of it. So they just treat us how they want, really. But in answer to your question, what the military, you know, the values of the military are about discipline, about rank, or about, you know, loyalty and all this kind of thing. And if we were going to go to court martial, if it was going to go even to civilian, then it would be in the public domain. And months went by, and eventually, about 8 months later, Peter was our brigadier, right? So he was obviously ex SAS, in charge of the special forces in the Gulf, and but at this time, that's before that, but he was now a brigadier in charge of like our division in Germany, and it landed on his desk, right? So it's down to him. Were we going to get court-martialed, or was he going to give our CO extended powers? So a brigadier can do that, give a CO extended powers, because CO can only give you 28 days in there. Extended powers, you can double the sentence, 56 days. So, you know, we were told, like he said, like if these lads can navigate across the Baltic, where not cause any harm to anybody, like because the lads got picked up, or to the ship, and you know, hand themselves in, then you know, I think it said it was a good sense, showed good initiative, and he gave the CO extended powers. So we got 56 days in Colchester. I mean, it was like unheard of, because they were, for a long time, it went from 10 years, right, you're getting 2 years. You're getting court-martial, dishonourable discharge. And of course, that was a huge pressure. We weren't allowed to drink at this point, and you know, there was no relief for us. I mean, we were like we had like leprosy, you know what I mean? People were just, you know, a few people were stayed loyal to you that I'm still loyal to now, but obviously you don't want to kind of hang around people that are getting court-martialed, right? And then it went to him, it came back that we're now we're on CO's orders, right? And so we go into orders, and he goes, "You accept my award?" Yeah, of course we accept your award. We grab onto that. He goes, "Right, I've got extended powers. You get 56 days in Colchester." And we're like, and soldier on. This was the thing. We weren't getting dishonourable discharge. 56 days and soldier on. And we're like, oh, thank God for that, you know. I mean, you could do 56 days, right? So we got basically, you know, sent to Colchester. But the twist in the tail, right? I mean, you've heard of Colchester, right? Everybody in the services has heard of Colchester. It sort of, you know, it sends a shiver down your spine, the name of it. And when we got flown back to Germany, handcuffed on a plane, you know, taken through a side exit and all this. And I just remember getting handcuffed onto this bus, you know, those green army buses used to go to ranges on. And part of me's thinking, oh, I'm home. I'm back in UK, happy days. And then you think, oh, actually, I'm not going on leave. I'm going to Collie. And you know, it is quite a thing to think about, a place to go to. And but first morning, like you wake up there, and they put us in the same room together, and we're in for the first night. It's sort of like a holding cell, and there's on the Mondays a big sort of commandant's parade, right? And before you go on the parade, you're lined up. You've got A wing, which is all of the military that doing time that go back to the units, right? They're soldier on. Then you've got D wing. They're doing up to 2 years. They're doing a sentence and they're getting discharged from the army, or even doing 2 years and then going into a civilian prison, right? So you've got A wing on one side, D wing on the other side of this parade square. And then the RSM comes out. And we're like, I mean, we're obviously fucking nervous, like, we don't know what the sketch is or anything. But we're on parade and this RSM comes out and I'm thinking, I recognise him somewhere. He just calls our names out. He goes, Wildman. He calls out the other females. He goes, get out here, 1 pace mark. And this is in front of everyone. Take 1 pace forward like this. I know you 4 fuckers from somewhere. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the guy from Kiel. The guy we've handed ourselves into, a year later is now the RSM at Colchester. And it was just like, it was the full circle of the story, really. And anyway, we got an easy ride, really, from the rest of the soldiers under sentence, as they're known, because there's quite a lot of violence and intimidation and all that kind of stuff in that place. We got an easy ride. And even on the inspections, he would come in, you're allowed 1 photo. You didn't sleep on your bed because your bed has to be immaculate. You're sleeping on the floor. Everything you own has got to be like in a sheet of A4 paper, like combat jacket, all your kit. It's immaculate. It's unbelievable. And I mean, the routine there is pretty. It's known as the harshest penal regime in the country. That's civilian and military. And you're allowed 1 photo inside of your locker, and on the weekly inspection that the commandant would do, would come around one of the rooms as well. You had to open your locker, and I'd taken a picture of the 4 of us when we landed at Rugby Harbour with our arms around the shoulder, next to this, and you can read the moron right next to the boat. So I put that up on the inside of my locker. Anyway, he comes in and he goes, oh, right. And he's like sat on your bed. He goes, tell us what bearing were you on? It's like great, and it's just how the military do things, isn't it? They got a sense of humour at the end of the day. So much so, when we got back to the unit, our colonel, the guy giving us the sentence, he put us in the army sailing team. So me and my best mate, the chief, as I call him, we entered the army sailing. We come 3rd in the army championships because we got trained how to do dinghy sailing, right? So we were sailing every week, and so we won the regimental cup, and the colonel had to then present us with a trophy about a couple of months after we come out of Colchester. So it all turns into a laugh and joke. We used to have pirate dudes in the squadron, and it's quite a well-known story. But obviously career-wise, I knew I was not going to sort of progress anywhere. So as soon as I could, mate, I handed my chit in, and got another expedition into Zimbabwe. 4 months out there, and then handed my kit in. But it was kind of, it's a funny story, if you like. We got away with it in many ways. It could have gone badly wrong, as we discussed, but it really was a reflection of my mindset at the time, which was, any proceeding up to that was, I was regarded as before I joined, somebody, real mistrust of authority, because this is what you do as a young kid when you're experiencing sort of, adverse experiences as growing up. You don't respect authority. I had no fear of any consequences, as we've seen. I'd living in fear, vulnerability, and I would reach for anything that would take me out of that, and where that kind of leads, into abusing substances, alcohol, stuff like that, and things that go with that. And getting into trouble. Before I joined the army, I had criminal record. Best mate was in Pentonville. I used to go around, every prison in London, Wandsworth, Weymouth, Scrubs, Pentonville, these places. I'm thinking, what are you doing? Which is why I ended up in the army in the first place. But I still had that sort of chaos sort of mindset. And if, we could, when on the piss, anything could happen, as I've just said. And I still had this mistrust of, I was great, in the field, good soldier, but around camp, there's nothing to do. We just get up to mischief, lack of self-discipline, lack of maturity. But I'd had this unresolved trauma, and that took a long time to unravel. And, I left the army. I moved into a council estate in Guildford now. So mum had moved away, and I'm now living, and the friendship circle I've got. I'm living above the biggest, drug dealer in Guildford at the time, and this is sort of end of '89. It's that sort of rave culture going on. But you adapt. One thing we do is we adapt to our environment. I adapted to that environment, because I was pretty lost. I didn't have any family around me. My brother was he'd gone missing in India, and I went out there to find him, found him, brought him, helped bring him home.
Was he having an episode or something?
Well, we all sort of display.
That sounds like Psychosis.
Well, it kind of went into that because of the lifestyle that he was leading, and it got into, he saw a good friend of his die in the mountains, and it was quite a traumatic time for him, and the people that he was. The thing is, I think the point is that when you're kind of lost, right, and we've all been there, when you're lost, you need a good impulse, you need a good influence, right? And if the people around you aren't good influences, and you're easily influenced, when you're in that vulnerability, that's why it's called vulnerability, because you are, you're subject to influences around you, your environment. And
I had that though, Nick. I had sorry to interrupt you, but
that's right. Yeah.
I remember sat at the dock in Hong Kong waiting for a ferry to Llama Island, beautiful little island off Hong Kong, very bohemic island, no cars on it, just these little like golf cart things. Anyway, I was there with a chap. In my book I call him David Niven. His real name was Richard Burton. I'm rolling this joint, right, making sure, the Hong Kong passers-by aren't spotting me, sort of thing. I'm rolling it like I've climbed down this dock or whatever, rolled this joint. He looked at me and he said something like, and he'd been dropping in these really snide comments that I didn't appreciate. So we were out with two girls once in Rick's Cafe in Hong Kong. I later become the doorman on there, and we're with these two girls. I don't know, they were called Tarquar and Farquin or something. Anyway, he said, girls, this is my friend Chris. And just as I'm about to say hello, he says, Chris is a drug addict, And I'm like, Rich, for fuck's sake, man. So anyway, we're sat on this dock waiting to go to Llama Island, and I've skinned up this joint, and he looked at me. He says, Chris, I'm a bit hard on you sometimes about the old drugs. And I'm like, yeah. I sort of wondered where this was going, Nick, He said, it's because I lost 2 years of my life to heroin addiction. And I see you going exactly the same way. And what it's like. I'm like, oh yeah, no, don't worry, I'm fine. I'm
on top of this.
But it's just that thing, isn't it? When you're not right in the head because of childhood trauma, the universe sets you a challenge to make you. Anytime you're not right, it doesn't matter. Even at my age now, if something's wrong in my life, I recognize now that's the universe is challenging me, saying, look, you've still got this to work on. If I go off at someone or whatever, I know that's me. That's that I've lost my peace of heart sort of thing, I had to hit rock bottom and then hit it again. And then later on in my life, hit it again. There's nothing anyone could have said. There's beautiful things people have said to me over the years, lovely stuff. Like, Chris, you deserve better than that, mate. You're a really nice guy. And that's what you need to hear when you're a traumatized person. Mm-hmm. Is it going to stop you then going out and scoring at the first? Well, no, because only you can get the answers from inside, isn't it? And you're not going to change until life becomes so painful that it's easier to change, Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it becomes as clear as day at that moment, doesn't it? Because all the time that you're sort of making do or coping, things are all right. But, you get to that point and it's like, as I say, you've got these choices. You can go straight down the middle, you can go left, you can go right, can't you? And
are you still, do you still struggle with pirate addiction now?
Listen, I actually like the idea of being a pirate. I mean, they cool outfits, right?
Yeah, and you get a parrot. So, I mean, what's not the career progression when you mention it affected upon your career? I understand that, because you basically get pirate, captain. It's like Dead Man's Shoes, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you got to have a big beard if you want to make. It's probably difficult when you're 19.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right, but I'm a free spirit. At the end of the day, that's it. The military I'm grateful for.
Well, Nick, you're clearly very well balanced now, and I'm looking forward to. We'll touch on Trident in a minute, and so you're living above this big dealer, and I'm guessing that this is having an influence on your. I mean, you're dabbling and stuff.
Work-wise, I would say motorcycle courier in London, and this was before cameras, before red lines, and all the rest of it. My number plate was just on a Velcro. You take it off in the morning, blast around town, and then put it back on the way back down the A3. But it's like, that lifestyle. I was in that lifestyle. I was still, and looking back at it, I think these distractions, they just keep you in the game longer. You can get distracted by lots of different things. Addiction is just behavior, right? That's all it is. You can be addicted to work, all the things that you can think of can be a vice. You can be addicted to, and essentially what they are is just distracting you. They're a distraction from the thing that you need to face, and I think the work is going from sort of chaos, as I'd call it, to courage, right? And for me, like true courage is about facing that fear, the unknown, facing that, look into your sort of dark, sort of shadow side of your darkness or whatever, and doing the work on that. And that is uncomfortable. That is a long journey. And I think you need to be at the right time of life to be able to do that. And people recognize this, instinctively. I'll distract myself with this thing for a number of years, or I'll distract myself with a career. I can function in a particular way that society is going to. I'm not going to get pinged for it. I can drink, I can binge drink at weekends. I can turn up to work on Monday, I'll be all right. Or I can, you can smoke and, party and get away with that at weekends, as long as, you can pull a few sickies and all the rest of it, but you can function. And as you say, it's only when continuing that journey, he becomes intolerable. And for me, it was all like, I went from that that sort of chaotic, everything that was been driving me would be to show externally that I was strong. It's to show that I had no fear when I was living in fear, a lot of the time, distracting myself with, unhelpful behaviors. But I would, when you're in that state, you're reacting. There's no measured responses. You're reacting to, you'd be flaring up at people in traffic. You'd have all sorts of, things going on where you're just reacting from one thing to another. I mean, an idea come in your head. Like I had a good job. I was, working for the Observer newspaper as their courier. Fantastic job. Could have turned it into a really good business, but I wasn't in that mindset. The bloke just phoned me out. I had one of them Dom Jolly phones when they first came out, down my leather jacket. It's around Tesco's one night, phone goes off, I come back from work. Do you want to clear up some minefields in Q8? I goes, yeah. I goes, when are we doing it? He goes, well, it's like, go and meet this guy in London next week, and you come out the week after. And I was like, fair enough. I just took off, and that was another. I mean, I won't go into that, but that was, there's so many stories about that.
Was it dry? Did you have a dry trip there? And
no, mate.
No. What I mean is sometimes we in an effort to get on top of substance misuse, we go, right, I'm moving to here, I'm doing this. And my experience is you get there and the very first thing you do is look to get hammered.
Well, this was exactly it. I mean, I went out there, I left that job. I just walked out on a number of things, walked away from that place and just sort of packed my bag, got this job. And we're civilians. And this was after the invasion, when Saddam had set fire to all the oil fires. And we were there to clear the minefields and clear the oil fields so that Red Adair and his team could extinguish those fires. So, but I mean, this is to give you a level. I mean, Kuwait is a dry country. You cannot drink, you can't buy alcohol in Kuwait. If you get caught with anything else other than alcohol, we got there first weekend we were there was a hanging in town. Right, lads, don't go downtown, there's a hanging. The chief instructor had been blown up on day one. He'd lost arm, leg, was blind. Didn't get really much of an intro brief, but I was used,
He could have joined your pirate gang.
Yeah, well, that's timing, I suppose, isn't it? But
yeah, it's probably like a hanging offence there, isn't it? For certain substance. But yeah, I mean, you got to be careful. But that didn't put you off, though.
It didn't put me off, mate. No, I took a lump of soap over with me, if you know what I mean, and I'm reunited with some good old mates, made some really good friends over there as well. I'm still in touch with now, Army commandos, and real good people that you could depend on. And but we're still carrying that lifestyle. Within a couple of weeks, I was collecting AKs from the battlefield and selling them to the American embassy for cases of bud, and just carries on, doesn't it? But that chaos, that just continued. I mean, there was loads and loads of stories. There was chaotic sort of time in Kuwait, and it was quite dangerous work. A couple of guys, 3 guys were killed, 2 guys in my team were killed, a team of 6, and I left there after 3 months after that first sort of tour, as it were. But I went on from there, and we just carried on that lifestyle. Now we've got money in the bank. I'd come away from that, I had 20 grand. I could buy a house for 60 grand. it was just pretty carnage, mate. We went on a road trip around the States, just spending money like it was confetti. And it was a good time. It was a good time with good people, you can imagine. And bought a 62 T-Bird, drove down to Mexico. In Miami, we'd ski for a month. We took a rental car in New York. We never took it back. We just drove it. We could have bought a brand new car. We just took this rental car on a one-way around the States. Till I bought that T-Bird, and because you couldn't take a hire car into Mexico. But eventually, you've got to listen to yourself, and there's a little niggle in the back of your head saying, Nick, don't waste this money. Don't go too far down this pipeline, because we were just drinking every day and anything else that we could find or come across, and it was only going to end up one way. In fact, the lads ended up down in Miami, and they set up some raves down there, and they were doing well. I would go out and visit them. I went back to UK, put a deposit down on a house, but I'd go back and visit them, and they'd have like a villa on Ocean Drive with a swimming pool. I go back 3 months later, they're now in a house, 6 blocks from the sea. I go back a year later, they're in a bed sit downtown Miami. That's the reality.
Yeah, going downhill then, basically.
So they're going downhill, and I mean, I was running equally going downhill. I was running myself ragged, just running away from stuff. Really, I still didn't have that maturity to.
What was your epiphany moment then?
Well, after Q8, I went to Bosnia. So I went to. You've had him on your show. Combat counsellor Graham, do you remember from you talked to him before? Anyway, he's
Graham Bent.
That's it, yeah, Graham. So I met him out. I only met him for a day, but long story short, I went out to Bosnia to drive food convoys into Sarajevo, and I was still in that lifestyle, still wanting to do good things. I left another good job. I thought I'd be a war photographer, but it was all starting to unravel. It was getting to a point, Chris, and you know it as well. When it's coming, you can almost feel it. And I was no longer the guy you could, I'd sort of accelerated in that lifestyle to somebody that was probably the last guy in the party. Do you know what I mean? And from someone who was sort of fairly naive to it all. Even though some of those experiences I had, I'm really grateful for, because it's the first sort of time I would say I felt real belonging and love, actually. But the epiphany came when I came back from Bosnia, and I'd sort of, we'd had a number of experiences out there. We'd sort of, that we'd managed to survive an ambush, and there was a number of confrontations. I mean, you're risking things to just get a drink of Slivovich, and staying out all night when there's a shoot on site sort of curfew in town. It's mental. But I came back from there, and I seemed to leave it on not a good sort of fitting. Not a good sort of. There wasn't a good sense in myself. I was not earning any money. I was in debt. I come back to the country. I'd walked away from my house, and I was in debt. And I'd lent the charity I was working for a lot of money, like a month's money, to get this convoy going. And I wasn't looking after myself, so I started to, I had this guilt about Bosnia, that I'd left it. I'd carried that with me. I'd carried everything else from one experience to another. Like you say, when you join the military, you carry those experiences into it. I went through all those other stressful experiences. I carried guilt and shame around me. And, I come back to the UK, and things were starting to unravel. I couldn't work. I couldn't focus on any work. I didn't have any work. I was getting more and more debt. I lost a dear relative. Relationships were breaking up. It was starting to spiral downwards, and this epiphany moment came really was through really poor mental health, which is so obvious to see. It's which is why you can see it in other people. That if you don't do the basics and look after yourself, eat. I mean, still drinking and stuff, and not really eating. I wasn't sleeping, and I just wake up in these like panic, have a real panic. I covered in sweat. I was like, I was like fighting to fall asleep and all this kind of stuff. And it spiraled pretty badly, and I'd just be, well, it's just not functioning, mate. And I remember having a conversation with my mum, and she's saying, look, because she'd moved away, and she said, look, go down to the doctors. And I'm thinking, there's nothing wrong with me, because at first, although I'm bad, I'm sort of having these periods of hyperness as well, where you're kind of thinking you're winning the lottery or something. It's kind of madness, really. It's almost psychosis, I guess, where you're just not hearing voices. You're just acting out. That's all you're doing. You're acting out. I mean, I remember I go to a cash point, and even though I was in debt, I'd withdraw loads of money and give it to people. Just give it away next to me. And people think, "Oh, what's going on?" And then, what really brought things to a head was this debt that I was in, and this money that the charity owed me. And I phoned them up. They're in Camden. And I said, look, I'm coming up for this money, right? I need it, because at this point my house was going to get taken away from me. And so all of that, all that grief from Q8, at least I had something to show from it. And I was about to lose that. And I'd also put some money in from my dad, had left me a little bit, and that had gone in there. So I felt like I've got to hang on to this house, right? So I phoned them up and get fobbed off. So I go up there, I took a baseball bat, went into their office, left the bat outside the office, said, look, I need this money, Chris, and he goes, yeah, get fobbed off again. I said, look, I'll just stop you, mate, because there's two ways we can do this. You can either go and get this money, or you can have the other way. He goes, well, what are you talking about? So I got this bat, just slammed it down on his desk and said, oh, I'm serious, mate. I need this money today, right? And I didn't want to do that, but it's about my own survival. At the end of the day, you do have to look after yourself. And it was a loan. They'd agreed it was a loan, and eventually they give me the money back. But I driving back from London, and I'm having confrontations in traffic. I'm upset. I'm visibly upset, and I turn into Chelsea Bridge Road, and I'm in this motor, and there's nothing in front of me. There's no traffic. Usually there's always a lot of traffic in town this afternoon. There's no traffic in front of me, and there's sort of the bridge is like a bit of a humpback on it, and I just think, fuck this, and I just put my foot down and get to this brow of the hill. Put my foot down, do about sort of 70 mile an hour. And at the end of Chelsea Bridge on Battersea side, there's like a raised roundabout, a sort of brick concrete roundabout. And piling in towards it. And luckily, in the corner of my eye, I just see this old Bill. He's in a petrol station in a Shell garage. And the sort of instinct then takes over, sort of snaps me awake out of this sort of, go down Battersea High Street. And I'm like, fucking hell. It's old Bill behind me, blue lights, all this sort of thing. Down the road, and I hit traffic. I think, fuck, you're in the shit here. Like, I've got this bat in the back window, on the back seat. I'm sort of catastrophizing. I could see her looking in the mirror. I could see this old Bill coming. I thought, fuck it. And we did this thing because my mate used to nick cars and stuff, and we used to practice J turns. Anyway, I put this thing into reverse, like put my foot down and just reversed like high speed back towards this old Bill car, straight into second gear, handbrake, hard down on the wheel, and I executed this perfect J turn. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You know, it's absolutely unbelievable. And I swung round next. I literally came, because if you do it well, you don't stop. Do you know what I mean? It spins on a sixpence, and the car keeps the momentum, and you keep going, and then you build speed up again. You know, you put your foot down and go through the gears. And I just come round parallel to this old Bill, and these two old Bills just look across and look at me with open mouth, and I'm just like that. Happy days, you know. And I tore off into the distance. And, you know, it went on from there. I just dumped the car, and I kind of went missing. I went AWOL for a bit. But I knew then that I was in the shit, mate. You know, I was in, not with like the police and stuff like that, but I knew personally. And that was, I knew, you know, people, I'd gone missing. People were trying to find me and all the rest of it. And yeah, it was, I knew that I needed help at that point, sort of thing. And, you know, eventually, you know, I managed to get back home safe, and I kind of just barricaded myself in and just rode it out, mate. But I did go to the doctors, and eventually, and he said, "Well, I think you've got, you know, depression, anxiety, PTSD, whatever." And I was like, "Okay." I wasn't having it. He said, "Take these tablets." Now, my mum had been on tablets 30 years after my dad, and I thought, I'm not having it. So I just thought I'm just going to ride it out at home. And yeah, it's pretty much what I did, really. It's you know, I remember I went to see Chinese, you know, I was into alternative remedies, really. And I got put onto this real wise Chinese guy, and he'd make me up these tinctures. He'd give me acupuncture. He'd say, no, look, you know, you must sleep, you must eat this, only this. He gave me a strict diet. You must follow this diet. You mustn't smoke, you mustn't drink, you mustn't do this. You must go to bed at this time. And he gave me almost like a template to work from. When you start looking after, we start listening to, you know, good influence, you know, reading good material. I started reading philosophies, Eastern, Western philosophy. I carried on with these tinctures. I started to exercise in the mornings. I walk around my garden. You know, I'd walk, you know, a bit of confidence up.
Did you slip back a lot, Nick? You know, it's very rarely a straight path out of there, isn't it?
Well, in the instance, no, mate, I didn't. I kind of had this, and I've always had this thing that I've put my mind to something, that if I really want to do something, I could do it, whatever it is. I just seem to be able to do it. And you know, the walks sort of got longer and longer, and I ended up, you know, going into the hills, you know, and then training, and then I got a job, and mate sort of, you know, you need some lucky breaks. Breaks to me, come dig some holes for us. I got, like, one summer I just got mega fit, mega strong. You know, you're out in the sun, and then this is all cash. I'm off work. I'm still sick, as it were, but I'm doing cash work. I'm trying to build myself back up, you know, financially, pay my debts and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, well, eventually after that summer, I need to get myself back into the sort of matrix. You know, I need to get into the system so that, you know, I can put this behind me, get a job, start paying, you know, tax and all the rest of it. And I saw this advert. Well, first of all, what's funny enough, I thought, right, I saw this job, you laugh. I thought, I saw this job, it's driving a bread van. It cracks me up. I thought, yeah, I could do that. I love bread, you know, and I like driving. I can drive. I'm the right guy for the job, right? I go for this interview. I put a bloody suit on, didn't I? Right? Because I've sort of been in my little bubble for a while, and I thought, yes, what you do, you put a suit on. All right, I'll go for it. Of course, I went to this baker's for this job. He's driving a bread van in this suit, right? And then I was looking at me thinking, what is this dude all about? And I thought, I'm the man for the job. Why do you want the job? Well, I love bread. But anyway, obviously, I didn't get the job because I still wasn't quite right. You know what I mean? I still, had lack of confidence because you when you're down at that sort of level, you ain't going any lower. There's only one stop after that, and of course, all the carry on the pirate analogy, but your wind gets taken out of the sails, doesn't it? And so clearly, I didn't get the job, and that was another little wake up call. It's like, fucking hell, you need to screw the nut here. So it gave me encouragement to keep doing what I was doing. I was working, digging these holes, got onto a roof, doing roofing and stuff, the rest of it. And but eventually thought, got to get back into it. All this job was to work in a gym, essentially, in a university. So I got this job in the university gym. I had a great mentor there, really, really special guy. And he introduced me to this concept of lifelong learning because I was, what was I, 29, 30, 31. I thought I was washed out. I thought that's the end of my life. And anybody else that's out there that's, I don't know, maybe going through difficulty, whatever age you are, you've got a choice. There is lifelong learning. We're all, I believe, we all come from the same. There's a bit of everybody that's all the same. We've got this pure, I don't know what you want to call it.
The secrets to the universe are universal. They're in all of us. And
Exactly.
When you're struggling, you're gonna struggle till you learn to crack it. And
yeah, but that's the courage, right? That is what is courageous. And people talk about, I've been in the army and I've done loads of different jobs in the fire service, nearly 20 years, and people kind of get this idea of that's courageous. Well, that's just work, right? You're trained to do a job, you can do the job, you're with good people, good equipment, you can do it. Courage is doing the hard internal, facing the internal sort of level of inquiry. And so anyway, I then had this mentor, fantastic leader, one of the best leaders I've ever come across, civilian. Barry was his name, and really special guy. And he just sort of gave me little nudges, saying like, "Oh, we need someone to lead the DFE group. Go and get trained as a mountain leader, and you like mountain walking, off you go." He gave me this the green light, if you like, to encouragement to go and do all these things. I did all the personal training. I was climbing coach, doing all this stuff, and then was back into expeditions. Went out to Uganda, and I'll just say, within a reasonably short period of time, life just becomes easy. You're doing the good stuff. I'm like, I'm now 30, 32, 33. I'm fit, physically, muscularly, strong, good cardiovascular fitness. I've got everything I'm doing for myself is the right thing, right? And in a very short space of time, I'm meeting good people, right? So I'm listening to them good people, and anybody out there, it's about the network. The network, your group of friends or associates, or your network. You've got to surround yourself with good people, and that is the key to one of the keys to it. Anyway, in this gym, long story short, the couple of guys used to come in, and I like. They were cool. I like the look of them. They're always laughing and joking, good banter, all this kind of stuff. And they had a bit of work, so I was trying to do some work for us. And I said, yeah. Anyway, it turns out they were in 2-1, right? They were serving in 2-1, and they got to know me, and they said, "Oh, like you, so you tell us about it." It came out that I was in the army and stuff. I said, "Well, why don't you have a go at this?" And I thought, you know, I still had this massive self-doubt, this imposter, this kind of vulnerability, a bit of anxious. You know, I still had that because I was picking myself back up still. And I thought, you know, surely if they could look inside me, and this is the thing, nobody knows how you're feeling. Nobody knows, right? So that is a positive in some ways, because a lot of times I've been in situations after this, you know, difficult, real stressful situations. And as long as you don't flap, people look at you like you've got things under control and you're not just reacting to all the different stimulus, whether it's like buildings falling down around you on fire or, you know, whatever it might be, like difficult situations. If you are in that, if you're grounded, you're in that moment, you're looking around and you're going, right, this is a plan, this is what we're doing. Just do this first thing, because you don't know how the incident or is going to unravel. You just gotta do the first thing and then do the next thing after that and respond, not react like that. Do you know what I mean? So
do you think your imposter syndrome comes from not feeling like a real pirate?
Well, Chris, I'm a pirate, mate. You know, I'm well known for it.
You fucking are, mate.
And listen, every year, every Christmas, you know, it comes around quick, right? Every Christmas, you know, blokes we don't stay in touch with guys, right? Well, me and you, we could be good mates, right? I wouldn't see you like for a year, and then I'll see you, and we're like cracking on, just like we never left each other. No male friends I know send me any get well cards, any Christmas cards, nothing, caution, nothing like that. Every Christmas, 3 Christmas cards, right, for my pirates, my crewmates, right, and it's always drawings, always skull and crossbones. It's all like yo ho ho, bottle of brown ale, and you know, long live land ahoy. It's all this stuff, and you know, that spirit don't leave you. But you know what I was saying, just to finish off on that thing, that people don't know how you're feeling, so they couldn't see any vulnerability or uncertainty in me. So they obviously saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And that's the same with anybody else out there. You have got massive potential, whatever it is. You might not realize it yet, but there's no limit to what you can achieve. And I know that for a fact, because I've written myself off at one point, and then 3 years later, I eventually, you know, drum up the sort of courage, if you like, to put my hat in the ring for this course, right? And the first day you turn up there, I mean, I was having mild exam. I had to stop the car and get out. Do you know what I mean? I was like fucking hyperventilating, thinking you're just going to get seen off. Well, you're not good enough for this, all this sort of thing. But the DS just said to us on day one, he goes, look, you just got to train every day and just be here in the morning. And that is it. You just got to show up. He goes, passing this course is easy. You just got to show up. Because people get it in their heads and they think, DS has seen this, or I've done this, I've made this mistake, or I've done that, I'm going to get seen off. And or they think, you know, they're on the hills, and you never know when the march is going to end. You never know when anything's going to end. Well, you just get a grid reference. You know, I failed my first course. My nav wasn't good enough. You know, I was in Elan Valley, which is a hell on earth. If anyone's been there, and I went back for second course. I was flying. You know, some of the marches that was doing really well until I got injured. You know, I got injured on day 3. On test week, and right at the last checkpoint, I inverted my ankle in a little stream, and I thought, fuck, I was fucked, right? But I managed to get through it just taking tablets, and that last march you do, that endurance is, for most people who get there, if you can get to that point without any yellow cards and without any injuries, you know, you'll get round that course. You know, it's 60 Ks with carrying 80 pounds after back-to-back sort of marathons, if you like. But you'll do that last thing. but I couldn't even walk. I had to crab sideways. I crabbed round fucking Brecon Beacon sideways, and there's a whole big story about that in terms of found someone who broke their leg and all the rest of it. But I started off. You start off at 3 a.m. I started off in the first. Well, there's two of us. They set you off in pairs. I started off first. Right, they put me first because obviously I've been slow on the last march because of my injury. Picked up a yellow card, and two strikes and you're out on that course. Right, you can pick up one yellow on ricochet, and I picked up a yellow card there. Starting me off first. It's snowing. It's 3 a.m. I'm crabbing up the side of this mountain. Right, I'm on my own because the guy I was with, he just fucked off because I was too slow. And I got down. Eventually, everyone's passing me now. I get down to Windy Gap, and just on the slope down to Windy Gap. I passed someone. I thought I caught someone up. I thought brilliant, because this is what happens on the course. You know what it's like. You see someone, you think fucking happy days. I'm not last. I'm faster than him. You get a bit of sort of energy from it. And I kind of hobbled past him because I was sort of building up a bit of speed now. I was kind of shuffling. And, it's pitch black, it's snow, it's windy. There's like 6 inches of snow on the ground. And the guy stood still, right? And he sort of leant on his rifle. And I kind of went past him, like chuffed that I'd gone past him. And then I was halfway down the slope towards Windy Gap, and I looked back and he hadn't moved. I thought, fuck, he's not moving, and you just couldn't leave him. Do you know what I mean? So I've dropped my Bergen there, kept my rifle, and I've hobbled back up to where he was, and I'm shouting, I'm trying to hear him. He goes, "Oh, I think I broke my leg." And I thought, oh, for fuck's sake! So now I'm carrying this guy down, hobbling down to the Roman road bit. On Windy Gap there, and it takes me 45 minutes. Put him in emergency. This is a drill, right? What I'm going to do is put him in a change of clothes, put him in a sleeping bag, put up a basher on the back of the Bergen, get him in the basher, right? And I said, look, mate, you're all right. I mean, I know the guy. It's another squadron, but I knew him. I goes, you're all right. He goes, yeah, I'm good. I thought, look, you're on the Roman road, right? Loads of people have been past, obviously, because I've been held up. I've shouted, tell the DS at the first checkpoints at the Story Arms, tell the DS to send a wagon up, because you can get a Land Rover up to that point. He's right on the Roman road. I goes, you're all right? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm good. He goes, you go. I said, right, I'm off. So I left, because strictly speaking, you're meant to stay with him, right? But that's my second course. I knew if I stay there, that's me. I'm, for I've wrapped, and that's how it'd be seen. So I was happy. He was happy. So kind of left him there, and I knew there was guys like half hour ahead of me already told the rescue team. But yeah, I mean, I ended up from being first. You get to the turnaround point. I'm now last. I'm last on that march, right? And eventually, I'm just. You talk about, I've already hit my mental. I know I've hit my mental limit. From what we talked about earlier. I know where now at my physical limit, and I'm delirious because I'm popping these pills, right? I think they're called something like DF118s or something. They're sort of like one up from, well, they're one under Valium or something. Do you know what I mean? They're prescription painkillers. I'm just munching them like Smarties.
Yeah, they're codeine, I think. Strong.
That's it. Yeah.
Strong form of fairly strong form of opiate.
Yeah, and and I'm thinking, just keep moving, and this is another thing that stayed with me. Just keep, show up, just keep moving, one step, just keep taking one step. And I got to the checkpoint at Fan 4, right? And I haven't seen anyone for hours. Everyone's fucked off, on blast, right? And I get to Fan 4, and the tent zip opens up, the two DS come out, and they like, and you know when you look at someone looks at you and their face changes because you were in shit. I knew how bad it was. It's like before when I was ill, you know, I knew how bad I was because of people's reactions on their faces, you know. And they're looking at me and I'm like, they goes, "You all right, mate?" Yeah. I goes, "Yeah, I'm good, you know, just bluffing it." He goes, "Righto." He goes, "You sure?" And I went, "Yeah, mate, yeah, I'm good." Well, not mate, but yeah, I'm good stuff, you know. And he goes, "Where are you?" I knew I was at Fan 4, show him on a map. He goes, "Give me your next six grid reference. Where's that?" It was Chapel Car Park, right? Yeah, I know that. No, it's Beacon's Res, right? Beacon's Res, yeah, I know that. Couldn't think, you know, pointy corner of the compass on the map. And I sort of hobbled off, right? Because you just want to get away from the tent, hobble off, and I'm hobbling off. I just went off that mountain completely wrong direction. I was completely off my head, mate. Going down this mountain, and I thought, something made me just get out of the compass. I had look, and you try and twist it that you're on the right bearing, and I'm literally 180 degrees wrong. Anyway, eventually traverse this thing, get down to the bottom of Beacon's Res, and the officer in charge of training me was there, and he goes, "Wildman, come over here." Come over. He goes, "Did you put that guy in the basher at Windy Gap?" I goes, "Yes, sir." He goes, "How long did it take you?" I goes, "Well, it's about 45 minutes. Sir." He goes, "All right." He goes, "I can give you another hour." He goes, "You've got an hour on your time." He goes, "Well done for that." I goes, "Thank you, sir." And I was like really buoyed up inside. Do you know what I mean? Give me this, because I was looking at my watch all the time thinking, I got the time. I'm not going to make the time, because I didn't think they can give me any time for the time I spent putting guy in basher. He goes, "You got another hour." And I think he could see me take a sort of bit of relief. It's pitch black sort of thing, but there's the lights of the 4-tonner and that. And he goes, "Yeah, but Warren." So he goes, "He can't move on." Anyway, I just set off and I made it. You know, I made it 20 minutes to spare, and you go through all the fight. I'm hallucinating badly. You know, you're hallucinating. I fell asleep, stood up. Like I just stood. I eventually caught two lads. I said, "All right, lads." I guess, and we started talking. I guess we got 40 minutes to get back. We've got to get to the RV, like, and I just stopped and fell asleep, stood up like that, and I fucking opened my eyes. Literally, must have been, I don't know, a few seconds, minute, I don't know. I'm in pitch black. They're gone, you know, and I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, you make it in. All you get is get on the back of the wagon. That's it. You've done the hardest thing, your physical thing in your life. It was for me, and everybody's experience is different. Like, but I had an inverted ankle, and I'd septicemia through an infected blister on the left foot, on the left heel. I mean, that is the hardest thing, physical thing I've ever done in my life, and but it was the thing I was going for, you know, to get in that. I just had this mantra in my head. The DS has said on day one, just keep showing up. And this is anybody else. That's all you've got to do in life is show up.
At what point did you realise you passed then?
Well, you know that you've passed because there's a 4-tonner there. You
Okay.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you then just get a set of instructions, you know, to the next phase. But you know, I was in real bad state, you know, after that. I mean, I was in a bad way, but physically, you know, but it took me quite a while physically to get my physical fitness back up, you know, to build up that strength again. But you do it on the course. But I don't know why, Chris, but we got onto that tangent. It was about something in particular. But
no, it's brilliant the way it's brought us full circle back to selection. Nick, I'm conscious of the time here. It's not that I couldn't chat to you for hours. It's just that the longer the podcasts these days, people just haven't got time to watch them like they did,
Yeah.
back
You're
a
going to
lot.
have to cut out a few bits, mate.
No. I'm going to keep it all in. It's just been an absolutely incredible chat. Really enjoy. It's also been freaking hilarious, mate. And also quite emotional as well. I think those people that have been there will know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's these things are difficult, mate. They do. There's a recognition that there's work to do, and you have to do that work. But the whole idea is that you do stuff in life that connects you to what is real. What is real within yourself. That thing that we talked about. We're all on a different journey, to use a cliche. But if you can see that goodness in somebody else, and if you can connect with it in yourself, then that's kind of what life's about. And that's the idea about answering the call to adventure, because I've always had a real strong curiosity about life. I'm completely open to all sorts of things, spiritual, whatever it might be. I'm open to it, because nobody can prove it otherwise. You know what I mean? And
I can prove it.
Good.
No, I'm being serious. Like, the spiritual thing is a funny thing for people because we've all been so brainwashed and indoctrinated and lied to. The biggest thing is the being lied to.
Yeah.
People don't understand what spirituality is. People don't understand what the scriptures are. They think, oh, that's like the Bible, isn't it? It's about like religion, and I hated that when I was a kid. So screw.
Sure.
What they don't understand is spirituality is simply about your body's biochemical mechanism. And if you live in a certain way, for example, knock the substances on the head, you will feel differently in yourself because your chemicals are different. And when you ramp that right up through things like diet, meditation, good relationships, smiling, turning every negative into a positive, not being a doom merchant, what happens is you flood your body with the happy chemicals, serotonin and DMT. Hence the biblical reference, the land of milk and honey being paradise.
Yeah, well, for me,
sorry, just to finish, Nick, so people get what I'm talking about. That is spirituality, folks. That is why old geezers like me do the things I do, jump in a plunge pool every morning, jog around the block. It's not because I'm some sort of Peter Perfect. It's that is the, and the sad thing is, Nick, well, it's not kind of sad, but it's all encoded. It's encoded in the scriptures, and you need a dictionary to understand what these stories about, like blokes walking on water and women having babies outside and people fighting lions, all these weird stories that really sound pretty like stupid for the gullible, are actually, it's code for your body's alchemy. Alchemy is the word I'm looking for. The secret code. So you said it, mate. It is provable. Everybody has it in them. The capacity to enter paradise. The irony is all the answers are inside. Although I will say, I think life experiences can, also usher you there. But great. Nick, can we talk about Trident now? Just because...
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd like to.
But just very quickly, did you serve on active service as a with 2-1?
Yeah, I was in Afghanistan.
And was that pretty hot?
Yeah, it's summer, mate. It's fucking 50 degrees, wasn't it? Listen, I went there, my wife's 6 months pregnant, right? And we went there sort of relieved. We relieved 2-2, and it wasn't a kinetic tour. There was a few rocket attacks and things like that, but essentially we're in their very early days. It really started kicking off in Afghan sort of 06, 07 down in Helmand, but we were there on a sort of operation to establish a footing in that country, to see who we could work with, what bases we could operate out of. And we're out in the eastern provinces, and back in, say, in the 80s, in the 90s, you had the territorial army, and it probably wasn't that too far, not speaking for everyone or every unit, but it probably wasn't too far in some examples from a dad's army. But from the year 2000 onwards, it's now the Army Reserve. It's not an easy ride being a reservist, and for a number of reasons. When you come back from an operational deployment, obviously you're at a lower sort of tempo skill set to your regular component, right? So you have to do, we did a very arduous 4-month kind of build up before we deployed, right? And that was all led by Hereford and stuff, and we were trained really well, and you're then up to a standard that you can then operate and can conduct that mission. But when you as a reservist, one of the differences with the regular army is that if you deploy as a squadron or a regiment, you come back together, right? Generally, you come back together, you go back to the block, you get a decompression, which they've got better at. It didn't used to be much of a decompression. It would be, I think, blokes used to get taken to Cyprus and to open the door to a camp, give them a few beers, lock the gate, and let them, beat hell out of each other. But for me, I came back essentially because my wife had gone into labour, and I managed to jack up through my own initiative, jack up a flight with an American C-17 back to Bryce. Now you come back from 1 minute I'm out in the desert, you're driving around, you've got a bar mine under your seat, you've got Minimi on the back seat, you got a pistol under your leg, you got a DeMarco stuck down by the side, you got grenades on the front dash. In some ways it's harder not having a contact. It's because you're always expecting it, and there's no release. Do you know what I mean? So there's never a release. Plus the fact I knew my wife was going into labour or was pregnant with my first child, and in some ways that kind of pressure can be as challenging, and but you come back from there as a reservist from the deployment, within. I flew back in 8 hours. I'm back at home. Later that day, you're sticking the bins out. It's like it takes an adjustment, and this is a thing that is often disregarded with reserve soldiers, which I think is worthy of a mention.
You've all got to go back to work as well.
Yeah, so I'm in the fire service at that point, but we were off. We had a 12-month contract. In fact, some of the guys just stayed on the contract, but and then subsequently served in with 22 or the SBS, and but I had a career in the fire service. I had a young family. I'm now 37. So I'd done what essentially I sort of signed up to do. I was fortunate. I was one of the few to get badged, and I wanted to deploy and do that and do my job and go on to do other things. So I made the best out of it. It was a great experience, but it doesn't define who I am. It's just an experience. It's something to look back on. And if you want to look back, I don't go to many reunions. Very occasionally. I worked with mate Nick Grange, who you've also spoken to at Elite Outdoor Fitness. When we started Trident, when I started Trident, we kind of teamed up together, and the idea was to go back to the Arctic because I was fortunate. I spent a long time with the Swedish Special Forces. I did their winter Arctic survival course, and it was, you've done Norway. I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved that environment. It was just like, the drills were brilliant. Do you know what I mean? The drills are, well, you can adapt the drills you learn there into any environment, but you're ski marching for an hour. You stop at an hour, you step off the track, the patrol comes through you, you go back onto the back of the patrol, you sit on your Bergen, you get hot juice out, you take some food, you eat that, you put that away, you take your warm hat and your warm coat off, you stow that away, you're back on the march, right? Every 4 hours you do a long halt, you loop track, you effectively, if it was exercise, you'd be putting claymores out, you dig a pit, you get in that pit, you get a brew on, you get hot food, get a hot scarf down you. And I just loved that. I loved that routine. I loved everything about the environment in the Arctic. Is absolutely stunning. It's just like, that peace and tranquility. And, I started Trident, linked up with Nick from Elite Outdoor Fitness, and he sort of provided a lot of the guys, and these people were sort of all ages, but they're ultra sort of athletes, done marathon dressage, all things like this, and they wanted another challenge that it's hard to find. Really, it's hard to find that sort of challenge, because on day one we put people under the ice. That's the rite of passage. You're up in the Arctic, you've got to know how to get out of the ice, how to get dressed, get a fire going, self-rescue. And we do that on the first day. Then we bump ski tour, we go hut to hut. You're drawing water out of the lake, you're eating by candlelight in these huts, you're chopping wood, you're having conversations. And all of those distractions that we've talked about, because there's a load of different distractions, the phones, all that kind of stuff, all that noise just ebbs away, and you're left with that pure essence, and you have real meaningful conversations. You don't have to get deep, it's fun, it's sort of, it's all that kind of stuff, but you meet travelers, you're helping them in, you're, this is the routine in this hut, this is what you help them in out the storm, what if it's like that, help getting their boots off, you give them a brew, a hot juice, and you really get to see the strength and the unity in people. And this is kind of what adventure teaches us. You've got to answer that call to adventure, because everybody has it within them. They have that curiosity. They might think, I don't do this. We have to find it in different ways. It might be, I don't know, maybe art's your thing, but in the main, you've got to go on a journey. Certainly blokes have got to go on a journey. And this call to adventure you've got to listen to, because it will show you through the power of the wilderness, the beauty in nature, and the relationships. It will show you what actually life is all about, and you get to listen. That voice inside you, which is, the philosophers would talk about, the Vedic philosophers, they talk about, we put covers on ourselves, so we get born as this kind of this, if you think that journey, that pure essence, and if you think how amazing it is just to be born right here, if you go back 20 generations, right? I heard this the other day, 20 generations. There's a million people that had to meet for you to be here right now, to have a relationship, to start a family. If you scale it up to all the way up, it's like a million people who had to meet and have a relationship for you to be here right now. And I'm open to all this. Philosophy does open the door up in the way that you consider things, and nature, it just allow those covers to be stripped away and to reveal what is, for me, like, as me and Nick used to joke about oneness. I mean, me and Nick were in Afghan together. He's a good mate, and I'll tell you how good a mate he is. when I was towards the end of the tour, when my wife was, nearly given birth, we were given 1 minute of sat phone a week to use that you could call home, right? Now, the lads in the location I was in, we were in a remote place based on the east provinces in a patrol base. They gave me their minutes, right? So they're giving up their family time, so I could phone up and check on my wife. And
they probably didn't want to get an ear bashing, mate.
Oh, mate, I'm glad you pulled me out of that, because it gets me, that one. It's like,
no, it's not.
People do anything for you.
That stand-up stuff.
And this is what Trident's about, mate. In answer to your question, it's getting people to do things they couldn't do by themselves. I mean, we do kind of vet people in some ways. If they say, I want to come to the Arctic, so maybe you want to go to Morocco first, build up your resilience and stuff. But we do an introductory discovery trip now into the Arctic, so it's not as arduous. You do it on snowshoes, and I've started to work with people coming out of addictions with mental health issues. And I'm really, obviously, from part of my own story, I've got a strong loyalty towards that. I'd love to work with other people, looking at working with Ephraim from Strong Men, and taking a group out there. And, for me, it's about the people you're with, the work you're doing. I'm not motivated financially. I'm quite fortunate, I guess, now. And, just to carry on that journey. And we get people to do stuff they couldn't do by themselves. We get them to connect with each other, with themselves, in a subtle way, not like, sit around a candle and stare at that. It's, we have a good time, and people need it. They need it after this nonsense we've been through over the last 3 years. They need to. I think a lot of people, it's shone a lot on.
Nick, I wasn't,
Chris.
I wasn't
going into that. I'm going to start it, mate.
No, mate. I wasn't going to mention it simply because I don't want it to sound like a moan. But
no, don't.
I ran the Marathon des Sables recently.
Yeah.
The thing lacking for me on that experience was like everyone was asleep. I found it interesting. I wasn't disappointed because I draw my strength from the universe and obviously my beautiful family. So it's not like I give a shit. I found it really sad that people on such a incredible adventure that really takes some balls to, and a few quid, to get an investment is what I meant.
Yeah.
They were so brainwashed and so closed off to true knowledge, gnosis, isn't it? Gnosis, know thyself.
We've talked about a couple of things. I've been in some of the worst situations and the worst places on the planet at the worst time, but with great people, fantastic people, even people civilian, not just in the military, not just in the fire service, people on the serious road trip, as it was known, Roger, Graham, a number of others. They're solid, decent people. Connect with them. They give everything, for the mission or for you or whatever. And the point is, I've been in those situations, but if you're with good people, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. And conversely, I've been in the best places, like you'd think of when you look at that map. South of Venezuela, I took a team out there. Mate, they were dysfunctional. They just didn't get it. This wasn't with Trident. I was leading for another company, and there's no connection there. I took another group to Borneo. It's very similar, and they were just looking. Oh, isn't the jungle wonderful? I said, that's not the jungle. They're plantations. Look at the straight lines. You're looking, but you're not seeing, and that is an analogy that sticks with people all their life. And I think some people go to the grave. They don't really know themselves. This is where the curiosity comes in, Chris. This sense of adventure, this call you've got to answer. And in some ways, we provide that, because people that come to us now, we've had young girls. We've had, more mature women, older guys. Some of them have gone through their own issues, right? They've battled through issues, and I think there's real wisdom and knowledge in in these people. There's an old mate of mine. He was it was a nightmare at school. Little John. He's he's skinhead, tattooed, heroin injection. Addicted to heroin. It was a nightmare, right? He's been 30 years clean sober, right? And that guy is a ray of light. He goes into prisons. He's trying to get people onto a different path. Now, the point is that there is a choice. You can make a choice. Listen, connect with that true voice inside of you. Not all the other noise. Don't compare yourself to social media. Don't listen to the news. Don't do all this stuff. Just go out in nature, find good company, and keep life simple. Look for unity. Don't look for the diversity in people. I don't see any diversity in people. I just see unity. Okay, some people on different wavelength. I go, fair enough. We're not in the same wavelength. That's fine. But I don't get frustrated about that anymore. I just see what is true in it. And like I say, now we're seeing people come not just to the Arctic. I've taken in our last trip to Morocco, which is in May. I worked with a guy called Sober Dave Wilson. He's a good fella, and we brought a group of people that have all potentially come out of addiction or changed their relationship with alcohol. And we summited Mount Tukal with them. It's an emotional experience, a life-changing experience for them. For me, that is the reward. And that's
it was, mate. It was hot in Morocco in May, was it not?
It was quite warm, but they'd had the biggest snowfall in 30 years. So, we had a bit of a tricky. There's still snow in the gullies. There's snow on top. I've got some great pictures can show you, but it's Morocco is doable. Mount Tukal, 4,200 meters. It is doable.
This is the Atlas mountain range, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate, Chris. In my travels, in my work in life, I spent a lot of time with indigenous tribes, and I've learned their knowledge. I've seen their wisdom. I've seen their wisdom, I know that, in terms of the simplicity, the things that can make you contented, things what are important in life, and look, the Berber people in Morocco are fantastic. For them, water is life, right? And this village where we go to, there's one guy, right? His job is, all the village, they got together, and there's one stream up in a mountain, right? And they dug a channel all the way into the village, and then they've all created little terraces to grow their crops, right? And this guy's job, right? Do you know what he does? He picks up a rock, right? And he walks up to the top of the stream, and he puts a rock in as a dam, and he gives that terrace 30 minutes, whatever it is, to feed all them crops, right? And then he comes back and he picks that rock up and he puts it down, and he works his way down that channel so that everybody in the village gets the water, gets an equal share, because water is life. And, there's so much we can learn from the Muslim culture. There's so much. They are so humble, those people in the mountain people all over the world. Mm-hmm. When they do their fasting at Ramadan, I've worked with guides there. In the summer, I've taken groups in the summer. It's 40 degrees. They won't take any water all day. No food, no water. You're guzzling. Well, we used to use plastic bottles. Now we use water filter for water to go. If anyone's used them, it's like a water filter. You can put it in any stream. It kills all bugs. And we're guzzling water. These guys are not even putting their headscarf into the water and putting on their heads. They're not even touching their lips, Chris, right? and you walk all day in the mountains, you know, hard work, and they won't take any time, anything until it's time to break the fast, right? Which is like 8 o'clock or whatever at night. And I'm with them. I'm with them people, and I'm watching them, right? And a tray of food comes round, right? Now, what would we be like? We'd be like fucking just grabbing it, because you grab it, you know, grab it. Everybody just wants their bit, sort of thing, you know. Like hanging out for food and fluids, right? But do you know what? They don't do that. The guy puts the tray down, somebody picks it up, and he offers it to his neighbour.
We picked someone up in Mozambique, or we was in a chapeau, you know, a pickup truck, and this couple hopped in. One of them was really bad with the malaria. The woman, when her husband got like a pan out of bread, first thing she did was rip it in half and give half to me, you know. And the other thing, like, we have a rule in this family: you don't play with food, you know.
Yeah.
You don't play with food. You either eat it or you put it back in the fridge. Again, comes from Islamic culture, where you respect food because you never know when you're going to get it again, and a lot of people don't. Give a shout out to the courses that Trident do. So, and folks, obviously, we're going to put a link for Trident below, as well as Nick's social media.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it'd be welcome, you know. We obviously we go to the Arctic, so northern Sweden. We cross into Norway, and we got 2 trips there. We got Arctic Warrior and Arctic Discovery. So Arctic Warrior is arduous, a ski tour, carrying all your kit, you know, up to 20, well, hopefully a bit low, 20 kilos, hut to hut, 6 days back to back, right? And you know, some long days, so 8 hours, 9 hours. It's an immense experience. We go to visit an old SOE base, right? So that's one. The entry level to that, yeah.
Put me down for that, definitely.
Yeah. Well, as part of the Everest training, mate, I think would be necessary. Arctic Discovery, and all our trips are like mainly a week long, so that, you know, busy people only have to take 5 days out of the work or family, right? And Arctic Discovery is basically similar to Arctic Warrior, but it's an entry level, and we're based in the same area in the Biscoe National Park, and we just go out to a hut. You can snowshoe. If you can ski, you can ski, but we just spend a couple of nights in a hut. We have more of a slow, gradual ramp in terms of skill acquisition, right? That's the point. So it's at a slower pace, right? Obviously, we do Mount Toubkal, we do in Morocco, Marrakesh, we do a number of trips in Morocco. We do Pyrenees. We follow a Second World War escape route from Biarritz into San Sebastian, and that is really a long weekend. That's 4 nights, and we do all of the trips. The sort of the constant theme runs through our trips really is about sort of authentic, original trips. So we don't really want to go up main valleys if we can avoid it. We go different routes, and like in terms of that World War II route, we do what they did. You know, we go through the safe houses, we do a night river crossing, we sleep in the trees or under the trees, put a basher up, and you know, then we have a celebration in San Sebastian afterwards, in some of the best food in the world, actually, in San Sebastian. It's a fantastic little short trip. And we're off to Nepal, as you know. So we're going to do Annapurna circuit. Again, a lot of the guys from, or some of the guys from Morocco with Dave Wilson, they're coming out. And that's to do Annapurna circuit. So that's a longer trip, right? So anything to Nepal is like, you need at least 16, 17 days which includes flying, because of the time difference in the time zones you're crossing. And you know, we also do tactical breaks in the UK. So we're working with corporate companies. I'm doing one for John Lewis in September up in Leicester. And again, that's still about the same theme. It's about connection and getting out to nature. and getting teams working together well. So it's not kind of building towers out of balloons or whatever. It's hands-on, feet in the dirt. Because what we appreciate is that if you start using words like wellness, meditation, mindfulness to blokes especially, but in some corporate environments, because there's still a lot of stigma around that and mental health, that you lose the audience. So I've sort of adapted it into more of a special kind of arrangement where we use different language, situational awareness, and things like that, and tactical pauses. So these tactical breaks are for corporate entities, individuals, or people who want to change behaviours. So people coming out of negative behaviours, addictions, things like that. And we're keen to work with anybody that's working in that environment as well. We're obviously aligned in that mission that people can achieve anything, that they've got a choice in life, that they can connect, and that you can find that within themselves, that answer within themselves to change their life and to live a real contented life. And the point of that is to be the man that you are meant to be, or the person, the human that you are meant to be, because I feel that we all sign a contract to come on this earth, and the work is to find out what that your mission is, and to fulfill that contract, and contribute to society, and be a good parent, be a good father, be a good mother, and just live that example for your family, and let's break some of these cycles that are going on.
Please look after yourself, mate. Good luck with Trident. And thank you for coming on the show. Friends, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. If you could like and subscribe, really appreciate it. Please support the Patreon, folks. It's $1.99 a month. That's like half the price of a cup of coffee or something, isn't it? And it just helps us to bring you these life-changing stories. Much love. See you soon.
Cheers, mate.